Leverage without liquidity is stupidity. In this educational episode, I'm going to talk about positioning yourself using leverage, which is the ability to own and control assets with very little or none of your money tied up at risk in that asset, and maintaining liquidity, safety, and earning predictable rates of return that are tax advantaged. That is much greater than the liquidity, safety, and rate of return of having the money tied up in the real estate or the cost of borrowing the money with a mortgage. Get ready, I'm going to blow you away. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for just about 5 decades. I'm 71 years old. I started in 1974 helping people optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and prepare for a comfortable retirement, long-term goals so they won't outlive their money. If you've watched very many of my episodes on this channel, my favorite financial instrument becomes obvious. It is a properly structured, max-funded, indexed universal life insurance contract. Structured correctly and funded properly, it is deemed what I call a laser fund. Now, laser is not only the copy of my most recent best-selling book, I'm going to gift you a copy of free at the end of this episode, but it's an acronym that I've used for years that stands for Liquid Asset Safely Earning Returns. That spells the acronym LASER. So I want you to have laser focus because these are the key elements of a prudent investment: liquidity, safety, predictable rates of return, and I prefer tax-free. So let me show you how all of this works and how safe, positive leverage works, because this is what makes the world go round. This is how money works. So there are 3 marvels or miracles of wealth accumulation. Number 1 is compound interest. A lot of people think they have a pretty good idea or a pretty good handle on what compound interest is, and then I humble them really fast by usually giving them an 8.5 by 11 sheet of copy paper. This is usually 26-pound copy paper. And I'll say, okay, you think you understand compound interest, take this sheet of copy paper and fold it in half. And now fold it in half again. Now they fold it in half twice, and it's about this thick, okay? It starts out 5/1000ths of an inch thick. And then I ask these many times CPAs and tax attorneys in advanced continuing education, I said, now imagine if you could fold that sheet of paper in half 48 more times, a total of 50 times. You can't physically do that because of the folds, but just imagine you could. Give me in some form of measurement in millimeters, centimeters, inches, yards, miles, how thick you think that would be if you folded it over 48 more times. And these savvy CPAs and tax attorneys who claim they understand compound interest, they write down their answers on the sheet, and I go around and ask, and most of them say 3/4 of an inch, 6 inches, a foot. Some of them say a mile, and they get laughed out of the room. The first time I did this, I understand compound interest, but I didn't have a calculator, and I said, it's at least 2,600 miles, and I got laughed out of the room like I was an idiot. What is it doing every time you fold the sheet of paper in half? It's doubling. If you doubled a 5/1000ths of an inch thick piece of paper, if you doubled that 20 times, it would be 1,048,000 times thicker. Okay, that's why a dollar doubling 20 times is worth $1,048,000 if it's tax-free. Okay, now if you doubled it 42 times, it'd be from here to the moon. If you folded that sheet of paper in half 50 times, it would be 93 million miles thick. It would be from here to the sun. If you could fold that sheet of paper in half 51 times, one more time, it would be from here to the sun and back. That's compound interest, okay? That's the first marvel of wealth accumulation. It is what Albert Einstein said was the 8th wonder of the world. Well, Rothschild said, no. The 8th wonder of the world is compound interest tax-free. Yeah. Because if that dollar doubles 20 times to 1,048,000 tax-free, it's worth 1,048,000. If it's tax-deferred in an IRA or 401k, that's not all your money. Only about 670,000 of that is your money. Okay, and so that is a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, which is not the best way to save. I like to save totally tax-free. How do most Americans save? Tax as earned. That means they put their money in banks, credit unions, mutual funds, and every year they pay taxes on the interest or the dividends. And so a dollar doubles to $2. They pay tax of even 25%. They only have $1.75 left after paying tax. That $1.75 doubles to $3.50. The next year you pay tax on that. Guess how much you'll have instead of $1 million? $72,000. Only 7.2% of what you could have had. In a 33% tax bracket, you only have $27,000, 2.7% of what you could have had. That's the way most Americans save. So that's why most Americans are not wealthy. Now, the third marvel or miracle of wealth accumulation is not only compounding tax-free, but safe positive leverage, the ability to own and control assets with very little or none of your money tied up at risk in those assets. So let me put it this way. I like to have my serious cash compounding tax-free, but I keep it in a properly structured, maximum funded indexed universal life insurance contract because it passes the liquidity test with flying colors. I can access money anytime I need, even with an electronic funds transfer or phone call. In this day and age, you don't need a bank on the corner with a drive-up window because I can access money actually faster and better electronically than having to get in a car and drive down to a bank. Okay. And so it's liquid. I can access money. And even in the worst times, a bank can say sorry for 6 months. They don't have to give you your money out of the bank. Did you know that? They could stall you for 6 months. The legal reserve insurance industry is liquid and safe. This is where banks and credit unions put their tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety. So I put it there for liquidity and for safety because my money is safe. When the market goes down, the stock market, I don't lose. I may not make much of anything, but I don't lose. If you have your money in IRAs and 401ks in the market, you might lose as much as 40% like people did twice in the Great Recession from 2001 to 2003 and again in 2008. We didn't lose a dime in those years. We may not have made much of anything those years, but we didn't lose. And at the end of that 12-year period from the year 2000 to 2012, most of our clients doubled or tripled their money tax-free, where most Americans were barely getting back to break even. And that's because they're using indexing. They're using safe positive leverage. But see, if you're connecting the dots, when I use a max funded insurance contract, I am able to participate when the stock market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down because my money is not at risk in the market. My money is safely tucked in an insurance company, which is like a house of bricks. Let's talk about the story of the 3 little pigs. They were houses of bricks and sticks and straw. Well, I compare the stock market to like the houses of straw. The big bad wolf, which is all kinds of things that happened, COVID-19, recessions, shootings, everything like that caused the stock market to crash. See, I'm immune from that because the stock market is like putting your money in a house of straw and it gets blown down all the time. You can lose 30 or 40%. I don't want to do that. How about the house of sticks? Okay, that's like the real estate market. It's more moderate risk, but when we have COVID-19 happening, we had a lot of employees that worked from home, and then employers found out that 50% of their employees worked actually as efficient or more efficient from their homes. They only needed half the commercial space for the other half of the employees that had to be overseen or babysat by coming to work and punching a time clock. Well, now commercial real estate is dropping in value 30 or 40%. The vacancies are 30 and approaching 40%. Interest rates are going up. Landlords are having to refinance. This ripples. And all of a sudden, these regional banks who finance these commercial buildings, they're going to get into trouble. We're going to see more bank failures. Well, you don't want to have your serious cash in all of these different places where you are subject to that volatility. You want to have your money safely tucked in a house of bricks. Well, that is in the multi-trillion-dollar legal reserve insurance industry that weathered the Great Depression and also 2008. There wasn't one single legal reserve insurance company that went under in the Great Depression or in 2008. In fact, the 5 major banks in America disclosed in 2008 that they had their tier 1 assets in insurance companies for liquidity and safety. And so just bypass the middleman and put your serious cash in the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry in a house of bricks. Now you're earning interest, compounding, tax-free, and it's at a rate of return greater than the net cost of borrowing. So what I do is I keep all of my real estate equity, I put the least amount down or pay no down payment, and any positive cash flow, I accumulate it inside my laser funds, my indexed universal life policies, compounding tax-free at a rate of return that's 3 times the net cost of a mortgage. Most of my commercial real estate mortgages are at 4.5% tax-deductible interest in a 33% bracket. That's only 3, and I'm making 9% on that money in my laser funds. On every $1 million of mortgages, I'm making $90,000 on that money in my laser funds, and I'm only paying $30,000 out of my pocket to use that money. I'm my own banker. I would pay $30,000 all day long for an employee that made me an extra $90,000. I'd pay $30,000 for a widget machine that made me an extra $90,000. And you'll have enough money accumulated in your laser fund to pay off your mortgages if that's what you want to do 2.5 years faster than giving the positive cash flow to the mortgage company. I can prove that mathematically all day long. But see, in the laser fund, when the stock market goes up, I get to benefit. But when it crashes, the big bad wolf blows down that house of straw or sticks, I can sleep when the wind blows because my money is not in those. It's safely tucked over in a house of bricks. Is this making sense? So this is why you want to position your serious cash, money you don't want to jeopardize, in a position of liquidity, safety, earning predictable rates of return tax-free. And it's not in the equity in your real estate. It is not in the market because you can lose money. You can participate if the market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down, whether it's the real estate market or the stock market. So if you want to learn more about this strategy and where I put my serious cash and where I earn a greater return than the net cost on my real estate or on my business for my working capital, you need to study and read my book, The Laser Fund. This is my 11th book. It's been flying off of our warehouse shelves. And we send out about 500 copies of this a week. I don't want you to miss out. So simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. But while you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, check out those options. There's even a master class on this, how to diversify and create the foundation for tax-free retirement and so forth. But we teach educational webinars on a regular basis. They're free. You can even schedule an appointment with no cost or obligation with an IUL specialist that I've trained, that I oversee, and you can then see how these strategies may apply in your particular set of circumstances. So this is not about me. This is about you and your brighter future. I want to empower you, so claim your free copy now.